Welcome, GoodHard story friends. I'm so grateful you're here today. It's going to be such a special conversation because the amazing Jess Connolly is with us. Hey, Jess.
Hi, my friend. I'm so excited to spend some time with you this morning and your people. I love the good hard story people.
I know you do. You and Nick have co-pastored camp multiple times now, and you know this sweet community, this Good Heart Story community and the Hope Hills Camp community are very much one and the same. So
Yeah.
these are your people too. You've ministered to them so deeply. And I've had the incredible privilege of getting to become your friend really through that. I mean, I knew you before, but I feel like I much more intimately know you and Nick from these years of camp and
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
precious Glory, your precious daughter coming for a full month these past few years has just touched my heart so
It's
much. And yeah.
touched her heart too. It's been the best
Uh,
part of her whole life.
oh, I love Glory so much. Your kids are precious.
They
Okay,
are.
for an official introduction though, friends, my friend and today's guest, Jess Connolly, is committed to living her life fully awake. That sounds great when it comes to the beautiful stuff and the meaningful stuff, right? But it's much harder to live fully awake to the hard stuff.
Mm.
Jess is doing it so well. With vulnerability, intentionality, and hard-won trust that God is for her.
Mm.
If you're listening from your lowest point, or if you want some pointers on preparing for the next hard thing to come, then you are going to love this time with writer, pastor, theologian. I mean, did you graduate seminary? I mean, you're in
I'm
seminary.
still in it. I'm still in
Okay, you're in
it.
seminary. She is a prolific writer. How many books now? Like, go on, admit it.
12.
12 books. Whoa. She is like a coveted speaker all over the world. This woman is amazing. Mother of four, no less. And, just a really powerful voice in our generation. You're younger than me, but I'm 43. How old are you?
41.
41, just a little under me, but I think you got married in 2005, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a year ahead. I married in 2004, but you had a baby first, so we'll get to all of that. But I feel very aligned, and I feel very
Yes.
aligned with you and Nick because your timeline is so similar to ours.
Yeah. Same.
So,
Same.
opening question, which I like to hit it hard in the front. So, Jess,
Listen, let's go.
let's go. Jess, you are emerging from a 2-year period of one loss after another. I know it has been so brutal. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Mm.
I can only imagine that you've needed a lot of truth and teaching that you've been given other people over your years as a pastor writer.
Mm.
Where are you right now in the process of healing?
Ooh. What a great question. I mean, I want to say thank you, first of all, for that very generous introduction. And I know your podcast listeners are no stranger to your accolades, but if I could just mirror back to you,
Oh, please.
um, I know
Please, please.
I want to say that uh, Katherine is not just good for the masses to walk them through their good heart story, but she was good for us individually. You and Jay were good friends to us individually, which, anybody can get on a stage and anybody can write a book and anybody can lead an organization. But you guys wept with us as we mourned. And that will always, for me, be the biggest benefit to just who you are because that's who you are in private. So I want to say thank you for that, for being
Oh
our friend
gosh.
in our suffering.
Listen, I will never forget that special night with Jamie Dewberry along
Yes,
for the ride. Sweet thing.
yes.
Didn't know what she
So
was in
sweet.
for because we were all sobbing.
Yeah,
That night in
yeah,
Charleston really
yeah,
ministered to me. Shared tears are so healing. It is,
yeah,
I mean, I firmly believe that we can bear our horrible burdens, the pain, the suffering, when we share them, truly. When we
yeah.
are sharing it, we can bear it. And
It's so
that's what
true.
we do. And it's powerful. So you are so
Yeah.
sweet, Jess. Um, okay,
So
so
where I
now
am on
yes,
my
answer the
healing journey.
question.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, yes.
You know, interestingly, I would say uh, let's say you have an injury like maybe like a boulder falling on you. Like a boulder falls on you and crushes you, you know? I feel like the boulder has been lifted off. Um and we have made it through like triage. We know we're gonna make it, and we know what the major damage is. And I would say we're in the process of healing. I would say we're in the
Hmm.
process of healing.
Yeah,
I feel like the
yeah,
last 2 years felt like we were stuck under the boulder.
right.
And, at sometimes it would feel like we were stuck under one boulder and another one would fall.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh,
um,
totally.
yeah. So, but I think a lot of beautiful victory and transformation and growth happened when we were still under the boulder.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
like what we saw of God and what we saw of God's people and what we saw of his mercy and his kindness. But I think now that most of the boulders have been removed, to take the metaphor as far as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
now we're like assessing, okay, what are the immediate needs and what needs to be bandaged up?
I know I think I know most of what you have walked through in the last several years. And I just have to say publicly, you are amazing. Nick is amazing. I deal with a lot of hard with a whole lot of people. And you guys are right up there at the top of having walked through a deep, dark season
Mm.
so incredibly well. Y'all have suffered
Oh,
so well, which is what we all
mm.
want to do. And just to
Yeah,
remind you, if you're not feeling fully out of the water yet, it took me 5 years after the stroke to feel remotely able to come up for air after what I'd
yeah,
been through. Um,
yeah,
and I don't think that's abnormal. Like five
yeah,
years, just kind of reeling and saying, I'm not sure I can live this way. I'm not sure I can live
yeah,
this life. So I always
yeah,
give a lot of permission for, yeah, the tragedy should really take you down for a long time, and then you can emerge one day. But don't
yeah,
rush it. Like, too
yeah,
soon makes for being back in it sooner, I think, sadly.
yeah, yeah. I
So
think you're
just
right too.
just one word that comes to mind when I think of you is intentional. You seem to do everything in your life on purpose. What choices have you made in this season to intentionally move towards healing?
Mm, what a good question. Okay, I'll tell you in bits and pieces. I would say, uh, so I'm noticing as the boulder's been removed and we're in this kind of prolonged healing from different griefs, different traumatic things, different pain points and areas of brokenness. One thing I'm noticing with my friendships, I'll say this, that I'm trying
Yeah.
to be intentional about is I'm trying to notice how to get back to a healthy place of reciprocity. Where, for the last 2 years, if I was going to see a friend, we were probably going to talk about my pain. We were probably going to talk about what was going on with me. And so now I'm trying to get back to a healthy place of reciprocity where I don't kind of knee jerk and say, like, okay, let's just talk about you, only about you, because it can't be about me anymore. But how
Right.
do I say, like, okay,
Yes.
I've still got some soul needs as a friend, but by the way, how are you?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if
Totally.
I haven't noticed that, and So that I
Yes,
would say
but
that's an example.
I love that you're also saying, but it's not only talk about you now because we've been talking about me for 2 years. So I'm not going to say a word because that's not friendship
Right.
either.
No, no, no. So I would say that's an example. I think one thing that the kind of grief of the last 2 years afforded me I'm bringing some intentionality to now is really paying attention to what's mine to hold and what's not. Really paying attention to when I'm with someone else who is grieving or who is in pain. I think that prior to the last 2 years, I immediately kind of entered into coach, fix it, pastor mode.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to do better about just sitting with people in their pain and just bearing witness to their pain, and something you do so well and that you teach so many of us to do
Oh,
so well. So
goodness.
some intentionality I'm trying to bring to the future. Trying to like access little bits of desire and joy again. I realized the other day that I was really excited for fall, like how everybody else is excited about fall. And I was
Right.
like, this is so intense for me. I feel so many fall vibes. And then I realized I'm fairly certain it's because for the past 2 years, I didn't even know what season we were in,
Right.
you
Mm.
know?
Mm.
So I couldn't
Wow.
enjoy
Yeah,
the crunch of a leaf or
for sure.
I couldn't even like take it in. So I'm trying to find little bits of joy in life, just in things like that as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I I think you've got quite a teammate to do it with, Jess. I
This
think
is true.
I truly think Nick Conley is just a next level man, like Jay Wolf. I mean, they're
Yes.
cut from the same cloth. And listen,
Yes.
I don't say that to everybody. I definitely don't tell all my friends their husband or Jay Wolf level, nor do I tell them I would call their husband to come help me if I thought about Jay was out of town in the middle of the night. And if Nick
Yeah.
lived in my city, I would. And I would not call
Yeah.
all my friends' husbands to do that. But I really
Yeah.
like him. I like his humility. I like his character. I like the fact that you talk about his modesty. Don't you talk about that? I remember hearing that
Oh,
in
yes.
the podcast. I love a like kind, humble, modest man. It just moves me so much. I mean, not
Yeah.
to dwell on his greatness for too long, but I remember an episode of your podcast, which listeners go back if you haven't listened to an episode. I'll look it up and we'll put it in the show notes, but it may have been from May, maybe, about marriage, sex, all the
Yeah.
things. And it touched me so much because Nick is just so like shockingly real, as are you, but also just very thoughtful. I forget
Yeah.
what he said. It almost made me cry. He was like,
Mm.
I just, I am so aware to not cause pain by being too intimate with you about my intimacy or something. I don't know. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but it was so beautiful and kind. Oh, I just love both of your thinking about so many things.
Mm.
I mean, I don't want to gush, but that same episode, I guess, if it's about sex, you talked about how you guys came up in purity culture, which
Yeah.
is so fascinating. I did not. I grew up mainline Presbyterian and got to skip that. Praise God. I got plenty of other baggage, but I don't have purity
Sure.
culture. Um, but somehow the Lord just kept me from making a whole lot of bad mistakes in my youth. And Jay and I were both
Yeah.
virgins when we married.
Yeah.
And I remember in that episode, y'all talking about how purity culture slash everything else in the world really
Yeah.
messed us up when you get married, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to just 100% now turn it on. Oh, you know what you said that was struck me so much was, in addition to purity culture, which I can't totally relate to, the early 2000s when we all got married and are supposed to
Yeah.
turn it on was toxic masculinity reigning in the church. So
Yeah.
women are hearing this message of give the men what they need. And honestly, and you have no needs. And
Yeah.
it's just so messed up on so many levels. Goodness. And I just
Yeah.
really valued your voice and your conversation. So, listeners, be
Mm,
sure to go back and hear that because she says all of it so much more eloquently than I would. But just such an important conversation as Christ followers dedicated to their marriage and
yeah.
living on mission together. That's a
Yeah.
total digression, but
I
here we
love it.
are. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, Jess, Jess, in my own life, I've realized that healing is not a fixed destination that we reach. It's a
Yeah.
point in a longer cycle.
Yeah.
Hurting, then healing, which hopefully prepares us for getting hurt again one
Ugh,
day. Healing is a form of preparation, I would argue.
yeah.
What are you doing to prepare for what you can't prevent?
Ooh, such a good question. I mean, goodness gracious, Catherine, that's such a good question. I think um I recently had this like very small injury and I fell off my bike. Because in this year of trauma and pain and grief, one of the last steps along the way is that I got into a pretty scary car accident and I totaled my car and I haven't gotten a new car since because I'm genuinely not that comfortable driving yet. So I've been riding a bike. But a couple
Good.
weeks ago, yeah, just taking what
Sure.
I can do, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Um, so I was riding my bike recently. I fell off my bike and I ripped off a piece of skin that um was an old injury that was kind of so gnarly that it had never regained pigment on my leg. It was just this like huge white scar on my knee from a time I had fallen a couple years ago. And I ripped the exact same piece of skin off. And it was so crazy to have this physical representation of like this is often what it looks like for us to walk through life. To rip the same part of skin off over and over and over again. To
Yeah,
know, to have a little bit of insight about like here's how it's gonna go, but to
right.
still want it to fully to heal in between as best you
Right.
can. Um, and also to live in this awareness of like, yeah, this could probably happen again in this exact same spot because now this skin is particularly thin. Um, so how am I preparing to be hurt again? Um, one thing I will say that has been interesting with the Lord, um, is that um, I'm processing pain and the way I pray for relief and release in my life in a different way. And I think probably for your listeners who might not know, I mean, some people have followed along with our story, but basically the timeline was this: about 2 years ago, my husband, who I agree with you is just one of the best men ever born, began having a mental health crisis that was pretty severe, kind of out of nowhere. Right after that, um, we, well, his first week back in ministry, we buried a 29-year-old in our church, who had died really suddenly. A couple weeks after that, my stepdad, who is just our kinsman redeemer, just hero of all of our stories, went in for open heart surgery and didn't wake up. A couple weeks after that, we had a private family grief that went on, really, really traumatically for about a year. That's just not our story to share. We haven't shared publicly. In the midst of all that, we were struggling, having a huge financial just tumult. We were renovating a house that took way too long and cost too much money. And then we were in the process of selling our old house and it catastrophically flooded. We had to move out of our old house for 7 weeks while we repaired. And then the day we moved back into our house, the day after we moved back into our house after repairing it from the flood is when I got in a car wreck, pretty extreme car wreck. Um, so that was just like the span of 2 years. It was just like we
Oh,
just could not get up off the mat, could not get up off the mat. And in the midst of that, of course, we're pastors. So we're ministering to people, we're preaching, we're teaching, we're writing books, we're leading. Um, so I share that just for any of your listeners who might be like, what? Um,
Yeah.
what's interesting is that like during that 2 years, my relationship with prayer went on a roller coaster. And I went through these like desperate days of like begging the Lord for things and fasting and wearing out the carpets in my house, just like praying and believing for relief and release and hope and healing. And then I'd go long stretches where I would just sit with the Lord and kind of hold my hands up and say, like, I don't know that it matters what or how I ask you. I really do believe I'm starting to understand your sovereignty and my surrender in that. And then I'll kind of get back on this roller coaster where I'd be like, no, I'm gonna fast and pray these specific scriptures and do these things. And so I'm getting to a point with all of this. I think how I'm praying, how I'm preparing for the next onslaught of pain, which you're right, is inevitable in all of our
Right.
lives
Yeah.
because we live under the effects of a fallen world, is I'm trying to keep the lines of communication with the Lord open. And I'm learning like they're going to shift. And sometimes it's going to feel, like Psalm 40, and I'm going to feel like I waited patiently on the Lord. He reached down and heard my cry. And then sometimes it's going to feel like a couple verses later in Psalm 40 when the psalmist is saying like, where are you? Like all these people are blaspheming me and saying like I shouldn't even believe in you. And I get it. And so, I think I'm trying to keep the lines of communication with the Lord open. And that's the best way I feel like I can prepare. And then I have one other thing, and that
Yeah.
is that I am trying to enjoy life and practice gratitude because I'm realizing that fear and control did not prepare me for pain, but worship and gratitude did. And seizing it when I could did seem to help a good bit.
I love that. I have loved the passage from Romans 5:3, for as long as I can remember, that suffering produces perseverance,
Yeah.
perseverance, character, hope, and hope will not put us to shame. So my incorrect understanding of that passage was, oh, so I won't be put to shame after I suffer, and I'll go on with my fabulous life and
Come
nothing
on.
bad will ever happen to me again because
Mm,
I wasn't put to shame. And then, boom, off to the beach for life, for the vacation. Instead, an accurate reading, I believe, would teach us that it's a cycle, that you suffer, you get perseverance, character, hope, you're not put to shame so that you can go back into the suffering fortified, built differently to approach it again, this side of heaven. Because, yes,
yeah.
we live in a fallen, messed up, broken world where
Yeah.
stuff keeps happening and it's
Yeah.
hard. But if we are
Yeah.
realistic enough to know that is the case and we're in this cycle, I think we can live differently. And part of that is the practices of things like gratitude that
Yeah.
changes how we live in the cycle. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, on a different note, Jess, years ago, you and your husband, Nick, were deeply entrenched in a church environment that has caused a lot of hurt. And I happen to
Mhm.
know some details both about that church and the hurt you
Yeah.
experienced. You may remember Dustin Nickerson was at our camp when you were, I mean, just and y'all were on staff years. It was just too wild for words. So yeah,
Yeah.
whoa. Jess, I think so many of us have had hurtful church experiences of our very own. You remain in church ministry to this day and seem to be thriving there. How did you process church hurt without abandoning the church altogether?
Say this, and I'm gonna say it, and if it sounds too strong, then I'll apologize on the front end. So if I'm saying this too much with my full chest and someone hears it and says like, "Hey, that was too far," then I'm gonna apologize in advance. But this is what I found to be true for me. I don't know that you can adequately and fully process church hurt without the end result being that you stay to help fix it.
That's a word. I thought what you were going to say is without a healthy church community to process it in after the fallout, which
I
is
would
what
say
you
that
have.
was another piece of it. You can't, yeah, I mean, I think there's piece of this. You can't, a lot of people say like you can't heal in the place that harmed you. So, for me, the one of the biggest reasons that I believe that one of the biggest things that I think God used in our story to help us heal is that church actually imploded. It no longer ceased to be a church.
Right,
And that hard stop enabled us to say like, okay, that was so broken.
right,
And that was so messed up that church could no longer even be a church, that
for
20,000
sure.
people the next day found themselves without a church home. So I think that one created a hard stop in us where we could say, a lot of this was wrong. Um, but what made that church so effective is that a lot of it was also right. A lot of what they did was also good and holy and healthy. And a
Right,
lot of what makes unhealthy churches successful is that the vehicle of the church is still the bride of Christ. It is still
right.
God's,
It's
it's his,
successful. Yeah,
it's what
totally.
he's picked. Yeah. And he
Right,
said, like, I love the church. So I would say, in my gentler way, I would say, like, the reason why I believe that a part of the cycle of healing from church hurt is being a part of the renewal of the church,
right.
is because it does continue to heal something in us. And
Amen.
because then we get to be a part of reforming it and not just critiquing it.
Absolutely. I love that. What is that Theodore Roosevelt concept of like easy for you to critique if you're not in the arena?
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah.
loved that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I interviewed Beth Moore several weeks ago,
Uh,
and I know I've read her memoir multiple times. Have you read it? You need to. It's
yes.
gold.
Yes.
And I asked her the obvious question that in a way I just asked you, like, so how did you not throw the baby out with the bathwater? How did you
Yeah.
stay in the church? And I mean, her answer was similar, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, the thing that stuck with me the most in her answer was it was a little like it was too late. I'd been ruined. I'd seen the true goodness of God in the church community and couldn't go elsewhere. I was called to this, and I see
I'll
that
tell
in
you
you
something
too.
else about church hurt that I've personally never heard anyone say this publicly. And um, this is what has felt true for me again. I
Yeah.
would say something interesting happens when we experience church hurt, and then we begin to talk about the church as if we are not a part of it. But part of the reason I believe that Paul uses the body metaphor in the letter to the Corinthians is because I think he wants us to see if you're talking about the left hand, it's still you. If you're talking about what's wrong with the knee, it's still your body. And
Mm,
so there's a level of humility and repentance that I think we need to have when we talk about church hurt, even if we were the ones in a particular situation who were harmed, to be
mm,
able to say, like, but I am a part of the church. And in every scenario where the church is unholy and unhealthy, it's also me. It's a part of me. And so I think as a pastor, that's also what gives me a level of boldness and humility to be able to keep staying in the church, even though I know that I'm a broken person who does broken things, is because I don't go in saying, like, well, the church is messed up and I'm going to be right. I go in
right.
saying, like, the church is messed up and God loves it. So let's keep trying, starting with me, starting with my own repentance.
I love that so much. And I mean, I'm a big believer in that as well. Like, if it's not right, help make it right. And
Yeah.
that's easy to say. And there is so much horrific abuse that's happened in
Yeah,
church context. And I'm definitely not saying, so you stay, look your abuser in the eye and
exactly.
teach him. Like,
Exactly.
please, of course
Exactly.
not. But
No.
when appropriate,
Yeah.
goodness. And that perhaps a slippery slope as well. But I agree and hear exactly what your heart is. So yes, absolutely. Okay. On top of being an amazing pastor, you are a prolific writer. Like the amount of content you're putting out is kind of ridiculous. You're
I agree.
releasing a book. Oh God. Sorry. You are currently releasing a book and you're about to finish writing another book. You're a machine. All while pastoring, writing papers for seminary, writing messages for your church, speaking around the country. I think you can decidedly say that you are tapped into your calling. So my question is, how did you discover the God-given gift of word?
Oh, great question. Well, I would just say, you and me and my therapist, we all agree it's too much writing. Okay, this is not sustainable. My baseline level is I need to write about 2,000 to 3,000 words a day just to get through like what's on my plate, and that is actually probably not going to work for the long haul.
Okay.
But where did I first learn that I have the power of words? I would say two things happened around the same time, maybe three things happened around the same
Yeah.
time, around the time I was in fifth grade. The first is that I won a writing essay award in fifth grade. And I had never been good at school. I was never an achiever. I had really never done anything in my life so far up until fifth grade that made somebody say like, wow, that's good. But I had a teacher say like, man, you're a good writer. And I remember thinking like, okay, this could be my thing. And around the same time, I got in trouble for something. And I can't remember really what I got in trouble for, but something, and my mom was very upset with me. And I remember I wrote a letter and I snuck it under her door at night. And the next day said, that was a very good letter. I forgive you. Thank you. Thank you for explaining to me why you did. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And
Oh
I would
my
say
gosh.
also around the same time, I hurt my neighbors. I had a best friend who was my neighbor. I hurt her feelings by saying something really like aggressive and unkind to her. And I would say, I can't remember exactly the months, but I would say all of that happened within about a 3 month span of time. And I remember that was the first time I had an awareness of like, I think that words are my thing, for better or for worse. And I think this is how I am going to move people in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think you're, doing a good job living that out, Jess. I think you've accepted the assignment very well. Listen, what's your number one piece of advice to people looking to focus on their specific assignment in God's kingdom?
Mm. My genuine advice is think less about your gifting and think more about the people you're called to serve. The more we think about our gifting and our assignment and our calling, I think we'll get stuck kind of paying attention to us.
Right.
But I obviously, Katherine, you do this so well. You are just so continually moved by people who are suffering, which is
Yeah.
probably what gives you vision for the next camp, the next coffee shop, the next idea.
You
And
are so right.
yeah, if you think more about the people who move you, you will think less about your own assignment, and I think you'll you'll be more compelled to keep going.
Yeah, just a point of honesty with you, Jess, is I struggle with the opposite. I'm a little bit of an empath
Yep.
and definitely I'm leaving town today actually, and I stacked my calendar yesterday to like do a lot of like meet with a young mother whose child is having surgery at Scottish Rite and go see a girl who is experiencing paraplegia after a car wreck. It had left and just a number of really hard things. And I'm good at that. I really know how to encourage people. I put a
Yeah.
book in their hands,
Yeah.
hug their neck. Like I'm really I love that too. It's very soul filling to pour it out.
Yeah.
I got home last night and I felt like I'd been run over. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe that was all just a little too much. And I maybe shouldn't do that so much, but I consider it among the greatest things the Lord instilled in me is a deep
Yeah.
sense of empathy and a desire to
Yeah.
serve. And I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful when healthy and so important. I have seen such giftings come alive in me when I'm serving
Mm.
other people. And I think
Mhm.
it is a beautiful, beautiful gift. We get to help each other. Praise God for it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you,
Jess,
God.
a pivot to, yeah, just being real and honest with you. And that's definitely not after a lot of processing. This was yesterday. So
Yeah.
I probably need to cut back with my life. We'll talk about that tomorrow. You
Done.
are a mom to 4 kids, Jess, from 18, maybe 19 now, 18 to 12,
18.
18 to 12 years old. I remember last year on your podcast, you very vulnerably shared that you wanted to disciple your kids, but that not all of your kids wanted to be discipled. I think that is so incredibly relatable. Oh, my word.
Mhm.
I think many of us relate deeply to that thought. How are you navigating the tension between your role as a parent and your kids' autonomy?
Mm. Well, how am I navigating my role as a parent and my kids' autonomy? This is an evolving conversation
Oh,
because
yeah. Oh, yeah.
we are in a new season. So, yeah, I have an 18-year-old who has graduated high school, is taking a gap semester, is an adult, a legal
Oh,
adult, um,
yeah.
living in my home. I've got a 17-year-old who you know and love, our
Right?
Gloriana Connolly,
Glory.
who is incredibly independent, homeschooling, graduating early, already accepted into college. Um, and so I would say, I am learning very quickly how I may not have even necessarily stewarded and shepherded their autonomy as they were younger, and am now like doing some good repair. Um, so I would just say like, whoa, I'm learning how to parent young adults, and then very quickly I'm going to find myself parenting adults, which I have heard is a whole new ball game.
Hmm.
Um, and so I would say the best way that I am balancing being their parent, being a wise voice in their life, hopefully being someone that they want to learn from and hear from,
Yeah.
is that I'm focusing really hard on 2 things. I'm focusing on building and maintaining trust with them, and I'm focusing on listening and being present to their story.
Mm.
Because as I am sure you feel and you are living out very well, there is this switch. I've noticed it in friends of mine, and I've certainly noticed it on my own life when all of a sudden, especially having, 4 kids and 2 parents, the narrative of our home switched to like, well, Nick and I are these 2 people who are living our own story and God's doing something in our life and the kids are here along for the ride, to these are 4 whole humans with their
Right.
own callings, destinies, testimonies emerging. And we're actually just 2 people,
Right.
kind of bearing witness to it and shepherding it. And
Ah,
there is a beautiful collective Connolly story, but really they have their own 4 stories.
yeah.
Um, so what I'm really trying to do is build trust so that when I say, hey, put your seatbelt on, or hey, have you thought about this when you're picking a college? Or hey, have you thought about this when you're thinking about a future spouse? Or what are you going to wear that? Like what I want to have is that they trust my
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
so much that they want to know what I think, that they
Right.
want to invite my voice in. And again, I would say I'm doing that by trying to pay attention to the fact that they're their own whole 4 people with their own 4 whole stories, and even the way that they perceive our family is its own perspective and its own story.
Hmm.
I had a conversation with one of our kids the other day. We were talking about like their early years, like 10 to 15, and our perspectives of what our family was like during that time was just drastically different. And
Right.
so it took such wild trust to sit and listen to each other and say, okay, that was your experience and that's valid. This was my experience and that's also valid. But I want to hear and I want to notice and I want to pay attention to how God carried you through that and how God was present for you. Um, so I think it's evolving. I am certainly, I know you know this. I've never, ever, ever wanted anyone to look at me as a parenting expert. And
Right.
I certainly, as we emerge into the young adult and adult parenting years, I will be listening to experts.
My gosh, I am so with you. Whenever anybody asks parenting advice, I'm like, well, it's TBD. We have no
TBD.
idea who James and John Buff are going to become in the world. So I don't know what I'm doing here and don't think you should be asking me for advice yet. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to freely give it based on my experience.
Yeah.
However, yeah, I love Kurt Thompson. I think have you ever been at the same week of camp with him, Dr. Kurt Thompson? Maybe
I
so.
have. He's
He
incredible. Yes.
he is incredible. He's incredible. He says that until you're about age 50, I don't want to learn a lot from you. I mean that
Yeah.
he's quoting someone else who says that, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
truth in that. Like, let's all get a little more life here before we
Yeah.
get the for advice. However, you are an incredibly wise woman. So you at the ripe age of 41 is worthy of asking a lot of the right questions too. I need to
Listen,
shut up.
I'll talk to the people who are coming a couple steps behind me, but I'm with you in that, like, when it
Yes.
comes to the steps ahead of me, I'm going to be listening to the people who have already done it.
Right. Oh gosh. And who are ending well, finishing their
Yeah.
race well.
Yes.
That too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, Jess, speaking of that, I'm really gotten into soul formation, spiritual formation recently, and I'm super interested. What has been the most important spiritual formation in your life?
Mm. Oh, such a good question. Um, I'll say what's been the most important to my spiritual formation recently. How about that?
Sure. Yeah. Great.
Because I would say if I had to look at the scope of my whole life, I would say the word. I'm a Bible girl. I like the Bible, and I would say, being a Bible girl has been the most pivotal tool in my spiritual formation for the
Okay,
whole of my life.
side note, I interrupt you. You are no longer a Bible girl. You are a Bible woman.
I receive it.
Truly, you are a mature Bible woman, but I love that too. You're a Bible girl. I get that it's
I
cute,
receive
but
it.
you're
I'm a
you're
Bible
a
woman.
woman. You're a
I'm a
bad
Bible woman.
Bible woman. There, I
I
said it
believe it. I
almost.
receive it. Um, but I would say what has really contributed to my spiritual formation as of recently is silence.
Mm,
And I say that as a words girl that is just noticing, like, also in the absence of words, there is a lot of weight.
mm, yeah. Wow. That's really, really powerful. This is a little bit of a follow-up question. I just have two more for you, Jess. Jess, if you could restart your life, what habits or disciplines would you put into place as early as possible to prepare you for the work God had planned for you today?
Mm, I would put young Jess through a master class in listening.
Hmm.
I just
Yeah.
wish if I could go back and do anything, I would just be a better listener.
Wow, I
Yeah,
love that
better listener to
answer.
people, better. I'd be much slower to speak.
Mm. What? Yes, I am definitely with you there. I would tell little chatty Kathy, stop talking so much. Listen more. Listen, Jess, last question here on the Good Hard Story podcast. I asked every guest what's good in your story, what's hard in your story, and how do you live in the tension of both in your good hard story? Because we know too much. We know life is not one note. It's hard and good
Yeah.
and good and hard. And it's all one complicated mess. And I would love for you to answer that.
Thank you for asking. I would say what's good in my story is that the boulder is off. Story looping all the way back to the beginning of our conversation. After 2 years
Yeah.
of really intensive pain and grief in our family, I have to kind of wake up every day and look around and say, like, look, the boulder is off. Like, every single one of these really intense things feels alleviated to some degree.
Right.
Um, and I think that's part of the gratitude of noticing and being prepared for the next hard thing, is saying, like, right now, it is not that hard.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
is hard, is that we are looking, I would say specifically Nick and I, looking at one another and saying, like, and we're a little beat up, you know, and
Yes.
we're a little deeply fatigued. And we made it through, and we love each other, and we're holding hands, and our family made it through, and we're looking at each other, and we're standing together, and we're a little beat up, and again, I think how I'm balancing the tension of those both is uh, something I'm continually reminding my heart about the Lord, is that I don't love him for what he does. I want to seek his heart, not just his hand. I don't love him just because of how I believe he's going to show up in my life, but I worship him as a redeemer because I believe he redeems. And I worship him as a healer because I believe that he heals. And I worship him as a father because I really do believe at the end of the day, he is compassionate. And so I can't separate to some degree who he is and what he does. And so I can trust that even in kind of our beat up, tired, fatigued place, he's going to do
Yeah.
what he does.
That's a beautiful answer. You are definitely stewarding your suffering so well and learning the right lessons, which is what we
Mm,
are called to do. Find the treasure in the darkness and emerge with it. It's Isaiah
yeah.
45 to emerge with the hidden treasure in secret places from your darkness and then live
Hmm.
differently. And that's what you and Nick are doing so, so
Thank you,
beautifully.
God.
Okay, Jess, tell us where to keep up with you if any listener doesn't know, which there's probably only a few, but I can tell one, which is her Substack, which is so awesome. Is it called the Fully Awake Club Substack? I love it.
The Fully Awake Women's Club.
Fully Awake Women's Club. And how do people sign up for that? How did I sign up for it? I have no idea.
You can go to jessconnolly.substack.com,
Okay,
and that is a great place to keep up with me. I post there
right.
at least twice a week. But I'm also Jess A. Connolly on all social media, and
Yep.
jessconnolly.com is my website.
Perfect. And 12 books to read from Jess, and they're available probably wherever books are sold, right? Awesome. Okay. In our world, there are a lot of, pretty cool people doing pretty cool things. Jess Conley's at the very top of the list, in my opinion. So I hope you will tune in to her voice, her thinking, even the way she has stewarded this really difficult season has shown that she and Nick are gold and
Uh,
doing the thing, living out their faith, practicing what they preach 1,000%. So I'm just
mhm.
a huge fangirl and so grateful, Jess, for this conversation. Thank you for being here.
I'm so thankful for you. I love you so much.
Love you too, Jess. And I hope I will see you sometime soon. Maybe camp
I
next
hope
summer,
so too.
right?
I think
Woohoo! I
so.
do too. I'm so excited. Okay, love you, Jess.
Love you.